So here we go, episode 2 with me, the self-confessed surf nerd, and my esteemed co-host, wordsmith and tube fiend, Darren Broadbridge. Episode 2 will be a journey into our do's and don'ts, a Darren disaster, and to begin, we're going to dissect Parallel C's latest edit, Form. So let's rip in. Darren, I'm going to let you kick off as the tube fiend pig that you are. Hit me up. What are your thoughts on Form from the John and the boys? Yeah, rip in for me.
Well, it's interesting, because I didn't even know it came out. Like, it was post-Christmas. I see they dropped it like the 13th of January. I had a surf trip coming up and I just stumbled across it. I don't know how. I think I was looking for Carl Rothman's YouTube thing to see if he was going to do an up-close video on the Dahui backdoor shootout, which he did. And then up on the top right, they suggested this, and I was like, how come I didn't see that? Honestly, I didn't see the 11 minutes go past. I think it was a sentimental journey nearly. Huh?
Yeah.
Like insane.
I got 2 waves in. I think I flicked it on at about 10 past 11 at night, and the dog and the missus were asleep. And I think 2 waves in, I just went, you kidding me? Woke everybody up and then just sat there with it.
The dog had to watch it.
Yeah. And I thought,
as you do.
So, I've rewatched it about 7 times, and
I just was watching it then.
And I've noted some highlights. But I want to know your highlights. I want to know, not.
I don't know. I think it's a medley. How he's done a video, which is his video, but it's not about him. It's about a spot, and there's not many spots in the world that you can pull that off with. But he did it, and it was it was a homage, wasn't it? It was a homage. And it finished with Derek, and it was as emotional as it was electrifying.
I think that's why at the start of this episode I called you a wordsmith, because homage is the perfect word. 100%. I've written down a few little things that as it went through it and I was watching it, they're the bits that I then wanted to tell people about. Firstly, when it first kicks off and he introduces it, and then there's still photos of Curran, and I think there's one of what I think it's Uncle Derek, but could be Michael Ho. But it's just a still, but you can feel everything about that photo, and it's like steep like heritage, and you know that those photos have been on every surfer's wall, countless catalogue, magazines, not catalogues, probably catalogues as well, and they're just a still photo. And I thought including those was genius. And it's not, obviously it is John, but the Parallel Seas boys, I think it's Eric Noston or something, how you pronounce it. He's behind a lot of it, which is really, really clever. And then, as I say, the second barrel, which is Cole Rothman, there's something about, and you could tell me a bit more about this as well, but for me, there is something about a stand-up barrel, no hands on the rail. Obviously, he's goofy, so it's a frontside barrel for him. But geez, that second barrel, I was instantly like, whoa.
That was a heavy barrel. He's in his crew too. I read him in Surf Magazine. I don't know when, but it could have been 10 years ago, where it was him, Koa, John, Nathan, Eli, Olsen, and Kira Jabor, because at the time Kira Jabor won this surfboard with King of the Grums, and he came into Euroglass, and I met him. And then I saw this magazine, and I said, he rolls with John. So you can see when he did the video, he's put his whole hit squad into it, and Jamie's pretty well highlighted in there, which he has to. But sometimes you wonder if there's not a little, I wouldn't call it animosity, but there is something between them, because it's it's
I think it's the
king and the court jester. Yeah, but the thing with John I noticed with this movie as well is he's in, I think he can count the surfers on your hand that everyone likes. Like, there's been mega big good surfers and kings, but like, really, if you look, like, there's Jerry Lopez,
Yeah.
maybe Tom Carroll, which is nearly the one person,
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, kind of, Ockie. And now you got John. Like, even Kelly polarised some people because he was so clean. And you saw it, like, between him and Andy, like, there was always an Andy camp and a Kelly camp. There was people that worked for TC. Like, everyone loved Ockie. Everyone loved Jerry Lopez. Everyone loved John because they're not aggressive and they just send it. So you just relate to it.
I completely agree. And I think with John is like, in the modern day, people are trying their hardest, mainly within the WSL, to create the John Medina version of Andy and Kelly. But John isn't Andy or Kelly, and whereas Medina is very Kelly-esque, and almost a bit Andy-esque, but John's not. And I think that again is exactly your point, is that even when people try and hate him, they can't. And, even when, like, Zeke Lau paddled all over him, it still didn't affect him.
And also, you know what? They don't, just in my very humble opinion, they don't need to create rivalries because you can't create something. And if they're trying to create it with their press, it doesn't work. And it hasn't so far. It could be also because every time they get close, John gets injured, so then he's out for the whole time.
The real enemy is John's knee, both of them.
There's another shot in that film, which is you just got John, Nathan, and his brother walking down the beach together.
Yeah.
And it's so close, but it feels like it's not there. It just feels like you're in the moment with them. And, like, I lost a brother years ago, and you can easily relate if you've had a brother or a sister, maybe not when you're young, because there's always, like, some sort of friction, but when they're adults, which they all are, and they're shot, and they're going out to surf, like, the most famous wave in the world, and they got, like, from what it looks like, the best filmer this guy's a good filmer.
Yeah.
Well, filmers.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It's actually one of my points is written down is family, because I noticed that there was a couple of shots where it's John and his brothers, and then there's a part where Mike Ho gets a wave, and he does this little hand thing, and like 2 shots later, Mason's getting blown out of one at pipe, looks back, does the exact same thing. And I thought, wow, that, for me, you hear a lot about pipe, about how there's the lineup and the, like, obviously, like, you've got to earn your respect. But those boys,
pecking order.
Yeah, the pecking order, that's the word, or the term. The Florences and the Hoes and Jamie, they must be there must be nobody can come close to those out there in terms of commanding their waves and then obviously surfing them to an incredible ability.
It must just be bananas, like our.
But hey, Daz,
Mason can surf it, like, with his dad. Like, I just can't. Really come to grips with it, because I don't think that's anywhere. Well, there is, but, like, pipe. Huh?
Yeah, it's not just him surfing with his dad as well. His dad must watch.
They're dominating.
But when you look at photos, like, for example, you look at a photo of your, like, for me, I've got an uncle who, when he was 10, a photo of him and then a photo of me at 10, it's identical, and then at 15 and at 20. But they've got that, but surfing, like, he must look and watch Mason at pipe and go, wow, yeah, he's mine. Like, they did not need a DNA test because he surfs that so much like how his family surf.
I wonder if he looks. Well, he must look at Mason and pick up some tips.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Even though sometimes Mason, it kind of, and that's a hard one. It kind of looks like he's trying to do it, but you'll never know. And even if he is trying to do it, like, he's adding on that bit of cinema, he's adding on the hand drive, it still comes off well.
Yeah, definitely. I also want to say how the timing of this with our wildcard picks on episode 1, where both of us just say, yeah, Mason JOB, who should get the wildcards to the Wazzle event. And then they release this, and it just was like, well, there's my affirmation that we picked the 2 that should be out there.
And they haven't yet, have they? Or have they?
Yeah, so they've announced
Baron's in because he got second.
Yeah. And then Miguel Saluda.
Yes.
But there's this thing because Zeke Lau had a wild card because there was always 2 wild cards, and then there's
one spare spot.
Should be another one. There should be one for Mace, at least. There's also, going back to the Form film, there was a clip where I thought they were just showing a closeout. Nathan Florence pulls into this pipe. It's a horrible looking wave. It's not perfect pipe. It's not groomed like background of your computer type wave. It looks just like a closeout, and it's like almondy and not a big cavern. And how he gets out of it is he's about 5 minutes after the spit, and I was just like, you freak. And that's not even John.
No, he's pretty good. And so is Ivan, who was kind of like AWOL for like what, maybe 10 years. I don't even know how old they are. But you never saw Ivan really much at all. And now, like, he's getting the best waves out there.
Yeah. And his style.
Some of the best waves out there.
Ivan's style, again, go back to, because he's goofy, he serves pipe. And when he gets his no grab, the drops with the nut, like, so his body's not dragging down the face, and it's like a no grab drop, and then you just see him fly. I think his style at pipe is so good to watch. I love it.
It's funny because I'm looking at it now, and maybe we're getting insensitive to these sort of things, but it's only got 281,000 views. Now, I don't know how many it had. Like, it's only 10 days, but Free Scrubber, it got like, what, 1 million? Like, that was kind of like one of the best other films. We'll do that in another episode. Free Scrubber, even if it's older. Which is funny because there you've got like someone who I mentioned before, Tom Curran, who everyone kind of liked, except for the Aussies because he was beating them. And he's got like 855,000 views. And the dude's, who knows how old he is, honestly. He must be 60, between 50 and 60.
Does he even know? Does he even know how old he is?
Do his kids know?
Yeah. But I agree. The Form, because it's not, when I first watched it, because Stab Magazine are doing this, they're doing an edit of the year, giving away a Bitcoin at the end of the year. And when I watched
maybe he didn't put that into that.
I don't know if it, it's strange. I watched it and commented straight away saying, give him the Bitcoin, because I'm not sure. It's the first.
I don't think it's his edit though. That's why, because it's not just him. It's everyone.
Very true. That's where
it's a pipeline edit.
Yeah, and I personally have never seen another edit that is actually the words over it, the music over it, how it's all shot, all the surface. It's just about the heritage of pipe and how good pipe is and that wave. And even on all of the comments on Instagram stuff, you've got all of the surfers saying, thank you, Pipeline. Is there another surf edit that is like that? I don't know.
It's funny because they could do it at Kira and they haven't. They do them all the time. They drop them independently, all the guys, but nothing on the scale of this, nothing on the quality of the cinematography, or even though I don't know if I really like the voiceover lady's voice.
Yeah.
It could have been better with Demi Moore, or I don't know who.
Personally, the small part of hipster in me likes it. Maybe that's the mustache.
I like the voiceover. I just think her voice, it could have been a better voice.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope she's not listening.
Probably is.
I'm making enemies over there.
She it's personally I think I know where he's going for.
Maybe she was pro bono. She was free. That's why they just got her off the street.
Could be his wife. I've never heard her speak.
No.
She might be Australian. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Wouldn't be. You'd hear that straight away.
The other part that I picked up on which because I was waiting for it when I watched it first time, I was just completely like so zoned in onto it that I wasn't concentrating too much. When I watched it again, I was waiting for the goat because I was like, oh, there's John, there's Joe.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought
And-
the same thing. I thought he snubbed him.
And then he came in late, and I was like, oh, there's the goat again.
And briefly.
Only briefly. And he does an air. They get the goat doing an air after a barrel, after a backdoor pit. But I knew I was with everything because obviously he lives next door to them, and he's guided John. No doubt.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if he wasn't there all the time because I saw an edit the other day where Kelly's got back there and he was at Halley and stuff. So maybe he wasn't there because all the footage looked recent except for the wave of Derek Coe, but I could be totally wrong. It could be a backlog of the whole year.
Yeah, I think Kelly's
two winters.
I think Kelly's is an older wave. I think it may be a last year wave. And I think a couple of Masons, just because of the sprays on his board where I obsess over them, a couple of those are last year's but earlier this season, and then some are super, super fresh.
Well, I think basically what we're saying, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, get some salt and vinegar chips and a beverage.
Or a pie.
Or whatever tickles your fancy and watch it twice in a row.
I agree. I'll tell you what, here's a question for you then. How would you improve it? Or
I'd change the voice over lady.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything else. No, I thought it was fucking not far off perfect.
Yeah. The only thing for me, which was that some people may criticize, and this isn't really a criticism for myself, it's just some people, I don't know, the people,
Joe Blogs.
Yeah, everyone who likes to pick a hole in something.
Hater.
This is the haterade. Where was Moana or another woman that has made pipe? Because it covered all of the guys, and maybe it's because it didn't fit, because maybe if you put one of Moana's best waves in that montage, would it stand out as nowhere near as good? Or,
Unfortunately, I think at the moment that's nearly what it is. Even though I saw a good one of Carissa the other day on a right. But was Carissa not in it either? There's no women in it, apart from his mum on the longboard.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was going to say. But because you don't see her, but I see her someone on a longboard, and I'm like, I'm sure that's his mum.
Yeah, it was.
So
you see her paddling in, and then she doesn't go.
So there you go.
So he's misogenic, John. We've got something.
Yeah, so maybe
get him about.
Can't improve it. Make it longer. Yeah, just do it. Just add more because it was that.
Yeah, good. And then we'd say it's too long.
They're talking about women though at pipe, and this is off track a little bit, but Steffi Gilmore has posted a little couple of backdoor caverns that made me happy.
I've kicked my tray over trying to look. Maybe it's because I don't follow stuff, because I try not to follow. I can't follow them all because I went by a facetious theory that if they don't follow me back, I'm not following them.
I like that. I have to follow Steph. She's where I get my inspiration.
She's your favourite. She's your green card.
Yeah.
No, what is it? Gold pass.
Yeah. Hall pass.
Hall pass. No, you didn't hear that. Future Madam Hayes.
She's in the other room.
Oh, she's getting shacked.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we bore people to tears, sick film. So let's discuss the final series at Trestles.
Yes. Okay, let's go with my instant reaction. I was sat at work and one of the directors came in and said, "Have you heard the news?" And I was like, "What news?" And he was like, "Trestles is the finals day again." And I said, "No, it's not." I checked every app that I've got and I was like, "No, it's not. It's on tour, mate. You're off your head.
You're wrong."
Yeah, you're wrong. You're off your head. And then about an hour later, it uploaded onto Stab. It was on Stab before it was on the WSL. So Stab's obviously got a mole somewhere.
They're just slow at the WSL.
Yeah, well, slow thinking. I don't
Well,
like.
if you look at their front page, which I try to do once a year, not more, there's nothing really up to date on there.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's not a great website.
Anyway, so
my
your initial reaction.
What are you doing? Why would you like? Why have you done this to us all? I thought last year I was a massive fan of Finals Day last year. I thought it was really, really good, especially with the tour, the way that the tour was last year. But I just can't see when I go through this year's schedule, like Pipe, Sunset, Super Tubes, Bells, Margaret River, all of
AAA.
Yeah, G-Land. If they all pump as well, they're all going to be like waves of consequence.
Well, they probably won't.
No, I mean, if they
hard
don't
to get them all to pump.
But I just thought, like, I could just imagine if you flip it, John stays fit for the year and pulls a Medina and finals in almost every event, wins half of them in Mac in Pipe, decent Bells, decent J-Bay, like massive chokes, blah, 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 and then rocks up to 2-foot Trestles.
Toledo takes him to town.
Yeah, Felipe was by far the best surfer on Finals Day last year. I know he didn't win.
But he might not. It might. I doubt it'll be 2 foot. They got 10 days. It's in the. But still.
But still, even last year was considered pumping. It wasn't. Like, how do you put? So if you put the top 5 as John, Geordie, and Jack Robinson, and then say Medina and Felipe, yeah, which is I think a pretty realistic top 5. If you're Felipe and you're Medina, the only issue they would have is if they were like 4th and 5th, because then obviously fatigue comes into play. But I personally think that there's no shortage of waves that they could have had it at. That I guess the biggest problem is how it fits with them wanting to do it in September, which for me is understandable. It's understandable because I thought the Challenger Series was incredible last year for the first time, and I think it'll be really good this year again. But
it's not got the same schedule this year. The Challenger Series, it's starting at the Superbank. It's gone over the whole year. Otherwise, you're saying, okay, let's privilege the Challenger Series over the top of the main event.
That's what it feels like to me. It feels like they're squashing in the finals event to then kick off the Challenger Series second. I think we just discussed it in the last poddy and stuff. I think Pipe should be the final event. I love the final event at Pipe, but I also think that if you're not doing it at Pipe, 1, it'd be amazing to do it at a different place every year, and 2, Trestles, like the only place I could think of worse than repeating Trestles is if they went to Kelly's Pool.
Trestles straight away. I was pretty well in agreement that it's not a bad spot because most kids that surf want to see someone ripping and they can relate to Trestles. But the target audience, not even the target audience, the average age of people watching this isn't 13 anymore. Like it maybe was 20 years ago when it was a new sport, but now it's an old sport. We've got a full generation of surfers from 10 to 20, another generation from 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 50 to 60. And like, I think apart from the 10 to 20, every other generation wants to see something exciting. I hope.
I do agree. And I think it is exciting. It's just not as exciting. You might be able to answer this because obviously with your experience of obviously running Euroglass and things like and being closer to surfers, do you think, obviously to me it sounds like the WSL haven't spoken to a single surfer, let alone taken into consideration what
they're quoting on all their things that the surfers will love it and no one loves it more than the surfers, but I'm trying to work out which surfers they spoke to because I don't think they didn't quote Jack, did they?
No, because Medina last year said he didn't like it and it should be in a wave of truth. And I don't think he meant Trestles when he said a wave of truth. And, if you're talking to...
Maybe that's why Medina is the best, because it doesn't matter where it is.
I think it did.
No, I think John can win at Trestles because...
So do I. He's done it before. He's run at Brazil. He's run at
We'll see, won't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is the thing with the WSL, they've got people talking about it. It's again, it was their most watched event ever. Now it's probably the most discussed stab. Like
it was
basketball.
the most watched event ever because they had a year off, because they've got a fantastic audience now, because they pushed it and they pushed it and they pushed it. And it could have been even more of a most event watched ever if the whole thing was done at Pipe or Lakey Peak or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Not Peru, by the way. That's just had a oil slick of 6,000 million litres of oil or whatever.
Has it? I didn't actually know that, and I know a couple of locals from here actually have gone out to Peru to help with a surf charity about 3 weeks ago. So I hope they're all okay. But
they've got 9 months. They've got 9 months to see if anyone's going to float up to California, haven't they?
Yeah. They're gonna be putting like something out to stop it. But
so basically, what do you reckon? They're doing it because it's easy. They got the head office there. They've already done it. It's easy to get infrastructure.
Yeah.
They know people are going to turn up. They can get it done with COVID. It's the easy way out.
Yeah. I agree.
Could be understandable, but now that they do 2 in a row, what do they do the next year? They have to do it there again, or otherwise they go, yeah, but he's world champion because they didn't do it at Trestles.
And I don't know if they've got anything to gain. Last year was so good that this year will have to be as good as surfing done in the event, because everyone, like the surfing done during this year's final by the boys was phenomenal. So it's going to have to be as good surfing, as good actual waves. Otherwise, it's not as successful. And
what could be funny is that Gabriel doesn't have an incredible year and still makes it to 5th place, and he's one dude who can easily go from 5th place and win it off the bat.
Absolutely, completely agree. Especially if, can you imagine if it's the first year that Geordie finally, if it pumps all year, Geordie comes out and he's first in the rankings, and they rock up and it's 2 foot Trestles, and he gets smoked by Felipe.
Yeah, but it won't be 2 foot Trestles. But Geordie's good at Trestles too.
But he wouldn't, in my opinion, I would put all my
money. Trestles, I think.
Yeah, probably when he was a bit younger, because how Felipe surfed Trestles last year, I think if he finishes in the top 2, because so then fatigue doesn't come apart, I wouldn't bet against Felipe, because the surfing he done last year was fantastic, just crazy good. The speed, I thought he was the best surfer on the day. I know that again he didn't win, and I think Medina deserved to win the world title. Last year was just off the charts, but at the same time, I think Trestles
did better surfing on that day when he had his waves.
Yeah, and
until the final.
And I think tiredness got to him a bit, and that's an advantage of finishing first. So fair play. But at the same time, yeah, in a wrap up, I completely see why they've done it. I completely understand why they do it. I don't agree with it, and I think it could be way better. But there's so much more to it, and this is me just explaining myself that I'm not just thinking of it for one thing. There's so much more to it than just where's the best surf. It's marketability. It's can they put it on, COVID, etc. Everything you said. So I do see it. I do see why they've done it. And I like to be fair to the WSL. All of the changes they've made, well, most of the changes they've made in the last year and a half, I think have been pretty spot on. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I don't know about this tiredness thing, which they always like to bring up, because, if you're a tennis player,
you
can have 4-5 set matches over a week, and then have a 5 or a 6 hour match in the final. The basketball players are playing 2 or 3 games a week non-stop. This is just one day. Now, if you see any of these dudes always talking about when they're in a hot pumping spot, like Jack, for example, at Nalu or whatever, he surfed 10 hours straight. So if they got 5 30-minute, that's not 5 30-minute heats, is it? Because it would be 6, because the finals best of 3. So it would be 7 if you come from the 5th against the 4th. against the third, against the second, and then 2 in then 6.
Potentially 3 in the final as well.
Yeah, they should just be warming up. I mean, honestly, if they're going to be going for the world title, you're in the 5th round, maybe you should run around the block a couple of times.
Yeah,
do some push-ups.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't feel sorry for them in any way. I just think, but also again, that could be where Felipe improves this year. Improve your position, and that's why I like the finals day, because it means that even on the last event, you're still trying to climb to get to a certain spot to then have an advantage on that day. So
Felipe might not make the top 5. What if he doesn't make the cut? Yeah. He gets knocked out at Pike first round, then it goes to Sunset. He surfs okay at Sunset, but he might not make the quarters. And then it could go straight to Super Tubes, which could be just a nightmare for everyone, which it can be. It's in the middle of winter, like March. They won't be wearing booties, but they could be.
Yeah.
And then it's Bell's, which isn't his favourite wave, and then it goes to Margaret's, which he won last year. So it's kind of ridiculous what I said, but you never know.
Anyone. Medina is notorious for being a slow starter, and I know obviously the start's now in Hawaii and stuff, but it's pretty cutthroat. You could have a couple of slips. Anyway, that's enough on Trestles, because otherwise I'll start getting emotional. We wouldn't want that. No, but what I was going to say is 2 things. Firstly, something you mentioned just there is something I want to discuss in a future episode, to just tease people with. I want to discuss our thoughts on putting the surfers in a proper cold water wave on the WSL, and our thoughts on how to deal with that. But that's a later episode. What I do want to crack into now is something that will bring everybody every time. Mine and your do's and don'ts for surfing, our little tips and tricks, maybe something that we just keep seeing that get annoyed with, something useful, something silly, or something that you just want to air out. And once again, Mr. Darren, I'm going to let you go first.
Wash your neoprene, because I pulled out a pair of gloves yesterday, and here's my new Rip Curl gloves, because Quicksilver and my old friends didn't have any stock last year, and I got back from a Christmas trip to Portugal, and we had a week straight of 0 perfect 2-foot waves, and I got out my Gracie longboard and I went and bought a pair of gloves, Rip Curl, 3 mil, and I got them out, and I'm, here's my gloves, and and I put them on, and there's a big hole between the index finger and the go get F finger, and I'm like, what's this hole? And I couldn't work it out, apart from just sitting there and saying how shit their stuff is, and it looks like it split the seal. But my mate, Juzzy, told me, did you rinse them last year before you put them away? Because if you didn't rinse them and you've left them in your garage for the year, it'll just eat them away. And I can't remember if I rinsed them or not.
Well, what I'm going to do right now, Darren, is I'm going to shame one of my mates. My good friend Jack, I won't say his last name for his own benefit. We went surfing.
The SPAC.
You've met Jack.
Maybe.
He came down to Euroglass when we visited.
Yes, yep.
Silent Jack, we call him.
The Spackster.
So we went surfing last Saturday. Bear in mind, today is a Sunday. So this is a week and a day.
8 days.
8 days. And I was just with him, and I said, oh, do you know what? One benefit from this last week flat spell is that all my wetties have dried. And he went to me, oh, mine's still outside. And this is like the UK's minus degrees every night at the moment, and about 6 degrees every day. And I was just absolutely outraged by the fact that he's left his wetsuit outside.
Jack's not serious. Jack
needs to look it up.
I've got my Jack is Juzzy, and what I was saying to him yesterday, look, it's not finished. That's why it's a stress winter surfing, because it's not finished when you've surfed.
No.
It's when you get home.
Yeah.
You got to get the wetsuit out. You got to rinse it off. You got to turn it inside out. You got to put it on the hanger. You got to have a dry spot somewhere in your house, garage, somewhere. So if you don't have to, which I do, and nearly everyone should, but you can't always have to, you got to get the thing close to being semi-dry overnight and washed and rinsed. Because unless you're a billionaire or pro, who I guess they're getting free ones, your wedding's going to hackers in less than a season if you don't look after it.
Yeah. So it's something that the future Mrs. Hayes kills me for. Like I say, last Saturday we went to a little surf trip. So I cold water. Fortunate enough, I've got 2 wetsuits, 2 gloves, 2 boots because I'm a little princess. And
that's what you need. That's what you need.
Yeah. And so then I come back with a bucket, 2 wetsuits, 2 boots, 2 gloves, and wash it out in the shower, in the bath, and then have to. I'm in like a 1-bedroom apartment, and then hanging it in the bathroom, and she's not happy. She is not happy. But that's
footnote that reminds me about when the nurse walked into the bathroom when my oldest son was born many years ago, and nearly had a heart attack because there was a wetsuit hanging up in the hospital bathroom.
Maybe that could be a future Darren disaster story.
No, it wasn't a disaster. It was just drying in the hospital bathroom where it should be. You've got to celebrate that first surf as a father.
Yeah. What's your don't then, Daz?
What don't forget to rinse your wetsuits or your gloves and put them in the garage for a year so they can get holes in it and then go out to get a new pair and realise that no one's got any stock because of the pandemic surf festival going on.
I'll sort you out, mate. I'll get you some gloves. I'll get you some freshies.
And I hate them. I hate gloves. We only need them here for maybe 2 weeks a year.
Yeah, I'm a glove.
Those 2 weeks are usually the best 2 weeks of surf because it's freezing cold, so you got good weather, it's clean, it's a blue sky, it's offshore.
Yeah, I like that. You can tell how emotional and how passionate you feel about washing or not washing your gloves. And that being said, doesn't just stand for gloves. Wash your wetty and your boots and everything else.
Even your clothes and your undies, you got to wash them.
Yeah, sometimes. Okay, I'll jump into mine. My do is it's a good serious one. It's one that I learned quite hard in Portugal actually, but it's learn from the locals. Do watch locals. Don't obviously respect them, and don't just paddle out into the best spots and go, oh yeah, I'm just watching the locals. But watch where they paddle out. Watch how they paddle out. Watch how they use the rips and all of their local knowledge. Not just about surfing the waves, but getting to the spots, how they treat the spots, and what they do. Myself and Silent Jack actually was in Portugal, saw these locals paddling out literally over rock, and the rock was like coming out of the water, and I was like, idiots, I'm going to go and paddle out over here. Spent about 20 minutes just getting absolutely beaten into the sand, and then realised there was a rip along the rocks and paddled out and barely paddled and was out back. So learn from me and learn from locals, and watch them and respect them. And my don't is a massive pet hate. Don't use white tail pads. People shouldn't produce them.
Oh.
I hate them. They get dirty and you can't take them off, like you can't clean them off like wax, even if you try and use acetone or like an alcohol thing, which isn't good for your board. They still stay dirty.
Because you're saying you need to clean a white tail pad because you can see the dirt, but not a black one which you can't see it.
Exactly. Or pretty much any other
weird,
colour.
Matt. Maybe I think you're a cleanliness freak.
I think some people would argue with that, but I think I'm definitely.
I think there's potentially under 10 surfers in the world that wash their tail pads, but that's all right.
I don't wash mine because I don't have white ones.
Stick to it.
But it's one of those things. It freaks me out when I see people have like black wax jobs where their wetsuits are rubbed on it and they haven't just cleaned their wax or de-waxed their board and re-waxed it or for about 20 years. But the white tail pad is something that really gets me. And the other thing about them is they look really, really good on a fresh board before they're surfed. They look sick. There's a photo of Simple do tail pads and front pads, and there's a photo of a board that
Simple the shoe company.
No, Simple the tail pad and board bag company started by ex-pro Erica Hosseini.
Never heard of them.
They're sick. SYMPL. So it's spelt a bit weird. But
Simple.
yeah. And they're a good company, sick tail pads. And they got this, they got a photo of a white one on a whiteboard, and it really makes me want to get one. And then I realized that after one surf, especially in the like dirtier, kind of less clear crystal waters of the UK, it would look horrible. So my don't is just don't use white tail pads. And
I don't think they're going to be selling many in Peru this year.
No, yeah. So yeah, if you're going to Peru, get a black tail pad and help out with the oil spill.
Okay, well, thanks for the chat this evening, Matt. I've just got one last thing to share with you. Is I'm going to come up with disasters files, and my one today is I'm running down the beach. I can't say where, but I spotted a secret peak in suburbia, and I'm running down the beach. The sun's half in my eyes, and I hear Darren, and it's a guy I know. I can't mention his name. Hey, g'day. So his dog comes up to me, and I'm not a dog fan. Sorry, dog lovers. I don't know. We won't go there. The dog jumps up on me, doing the dog jump up on you thing, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like wanting to say, get off me, and I didn't. And he's like, get off him. So he got off him, and I'm like, yeah, that peak over there, yeah, look. He was walking his dog with his wife. And then after he's gone, I look down and I've got 3 holes on the front of my wetsuit. Now, I haven't punctured it, and luckily I think it's got an extra layer in underneath. But what do you do in a situation like that if they put a hole through? Do you go back and say, look, this is what your dog's done in my wetsuit. You need to buy me a new one? And he didn't mean it, him. Huh? He was just saying hello to me. Does the dog have a job? Can the dog buy me a new wetsuit?
Well, I can't answer because I have a dog that is
Yeah. Don't take him on the beach. Don't let him jump up on dudes. This isn't my favourite wetsuit. It's a 4-3 integrated hood, and the wrists seem to be a bit short. I don't know who their mannequin was, but it's still a good wetsuit and reasonably new before it's got the triple claw mark on it. Anyway.
My dog put 3 holes in my director's son's brand new jacket in the office, and I just went and hid.
Does he like dogs? Has he got a dog?
He does, actually. They have a little crazy dog called Cookie. It just the postman won't go on their property because it attacks them.
So you could get hit up to buy a new jacket.
I did offer. I'll be honest. So your friend should offer. I didn't get taken up on the offer, but I did.
I don't think he saw that. He didn't see him.
Well,
it's the smooth rubber part. So it's like a tiny little knife slick, but it's not punctured the whole way through. I'm trying to work out, can you super glue that back on? You can't.
There's a product called Black Witch.
That sounds pretty gnarly. Black Witch.
Good. I'll send you some down with the gloves I'll send you.
I'll
sort you out.
Speak to you next Sunday, Matty.
Yeah, man. I hope. I was just going to say, thanks for everyone for listening to episode 1. We've already had some great feedback on it. We do now have our Instagram set up. So it's the Instagram.
Please follow us.
Yeah, follow us, comment us. Please hit us up with messages. If you think we're rubbish and what we can improve on, tell us. If you think we're great, which obviously we are.
And tell us what you'd like to hear about. I think we've got a anti-pro surfing mid-length episode coming up because I got hit by a friend today who's a hipster mid-length shaper glasser extraordinaire, and I wanted him to listen, and I said, don't worry, it's not just going to be about pro surfing.
Yeah, and so follow us. It's the Insiders Podcast with underscores, so the _insiders _podcast on Instagram. We are now on Spotify and Apple, so we basically made it to the big times anyway. So but follow the podcast, subscribe to it, download it, listen to it, play it to your mum and to your dog and to everybody else. Sweet for listening again. Episode 3 will be coming soon. Thanks very much, Master Darren, Grand Sensei.
And we'll see you around like a zip.
Exactly. And if you've got a dog, keep it away from Darren on the beach.
Au revoir.